When the virus in Raccoon City became insanely out of control, Umbrella mercenaries known as the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service had to be sent in to try and contain the situation. But as expected, they suffered many casualties and Umbrella abandoned them. Carlos Oliveira and his comrades were sent in to deal with the outbreak. In the canon series, Carlos is with the Delta platoon, which includes Mikhail Victor and Nikolai Zinoviev. But in the manhua of Resident Evil 3 The Last Escape, their team includes his friend Jeff, Nikolai, Mikhail, and a few others that aren't quite visible. Now, the moment Carlos and his comrades had arrived, Raccoon City was a terrifying sight to see from above. Carlos prepares for what lies ahead, and Jeff tells Carlos that he's very unsure about this mission, and he has a feeling that he might not be able to see his wife again. Carlos replies, "I think we all know the answer to that question. We are soldiers, and as such, we are expendable." As they close in on their destination, Jeff asks out loud, "Is it time?" A moment of silence digs deep before Nikolai replies, "It's time." Everyone prepares to drop, and Carlos says to himself, "This is it. We fight or we die." They see the Raccoon City police force down below, forced to fight the zombie outbreak, and now they have the chance to lend their support and work together to eradicate the living dead. Hundreds of rounds are shot at every direction, killing those who were once citizens of a peaceful town, now filled with holes and missing limbs after mindlessly infecting others and feeding off the flesh of the living. But even the might of modern weapons could not stop the zombie horde, for the dead far outnumber the living. And not long after, the police lines were overrun by the walking dead. Bullets may stop one of them, but another always takes its place, and one by one, the police forces fell to the horde. Jeff, Carlos, and those who were left alive, retreat was the only option, or face death at the hands of these vicious zombies. But for Carlos, death was not an option. The battle against the zombies continued, and Carlos would let nothing stop him, as he knew it would end whether he lives or dies. So in a fit of rage, he continues to kill everything around him. But no matter how many they killed, the wave of zombies would just keep on coming. Carlos and Jeff fight side by side, unsure of whether their comrades are still alive and fighting. Jeff lets Carlos know that he doesn't think they're going to make it. The battle is lost, and they've got to get out of there. While Carlos continues to fight, Jeff suddenly finds a way out, but with the many hordes of zombies headed their direction, and they both might not be able to make it into the manhole. So Jeff does the utmost sacrifice and pulls Carlos into the manhole, saving him from being devoured alive by the hungry living dead. Carlos is pushed to safety, and he shouts, "What the hell are you doing?" Jeff tosses him his necklace and replies, "Take this, and give it to my wife. One death is better than two." As Jeff closed the manhole cover, Carlos would never forget those words, for if he didn't complete his mission and live, his friend Jeff would have died in vain. Carlos wanted to stay by his friend's side and fight till the very end, but there was nothing he could do, for now he has to survive and find a way back to the surface. Jeff should be proud that he could save at least someone, but he could not save himself. And when the battle was over, the last hope Raccoon City had was lost. But how could this happen? With so much firepower, was victory not assured? But then again, no one was ever prepared for this kind of attack. Jill Valentine, one of the very few STARS members to make it out alive of the Spencer Mansion incident. She fought against the deadliest creatures mankind had ever encountered, but thanks to the help of her STARS comrades and refusal to become a brain-dead casualty of Umbrella's own creations, she managed to survive even when it came to facing off against the super soldier known as the Tyrant. She had finally escaped the Spencer Mansion, and for a moment there, she felt safe. But now that Raccoon City has become the next target of the T-Virus outbreak, she must face her inner demons and fight for survival yet again. The RPD, along with the SWAT teams and even Umbrella soldiers, were sent in to contain the hazardous situation, but none could survive the fight against the uncontrollable hordes of undead citizens. After the first battle was over, rain started pouring rapidly, covering the screams and trembling moans coming from the undead. This gives Jill the opportunity to commence her journey to find survivors and help them escape Raccoon City. but on her way, she finds a deserted teddy bear. Jill is saddened by the fact that it must have belonged to a child, and seeing as the teddy bear is stained with blood, then the poor child may have not survived, like most citizens of Raccoon City. While it seems that most of the city's inhabitants are no longer living, danger approaches Jill as she is lost in thought. With the rain interfering with most noises such as footsteps and the trembling moans coming from the undead, it takes a very close encounter till she looks behind and notices the group of zombies about to feast on her flesh. She quickly jumps out of the way as the closest one leaps towards her. She aims her M92F carrying 15 9mm rounds, but she hesitates to shoot as what appeared to be a small group of zombies suddenly turned into an enormous horde of zombies. Jill is surprised to see just how many of them appeared out of nowhere, but she doesn't have enough ammo to bring them all down. So she analyzes the environment and spots the body of a man wearing a vest with grenades. So she aims carefully and fires. The grenades go off, and within an instant, the zombies were decimated. Jill rolled out of the way and avoided the explosion. The explosion had elevated Jill's heartbeat, and she was struck with both fear and anxiety. But because of the explosion, this drew the attention of more zombies, and once again, the streets were flooded with the living dead. Jill isn't sure what her next move should be, as it would be impossible to bring them all down without another explosion going off. And even if that were to be an option, it might worsen the situation. So she begins to back away slowly, and then quickly retreat before more of them start appearing. She continues running forward and hopes that no other hordes lie ahead. The streets along the way seem too quiet and abandoned. There is no telling whether she is going the right way, or if it could be a dead end. Suddenly, a stray bullet flies right in front of her, narrowly missing her head, followed up by 3 additional shots. Jill knows that zombies couldn't possibly fire a weapon, so who's firing at her direction? And as it turns out, a man was firing at a zombie that was near Jill's direction. This man was revealed to be Brad Vickers. Jill was shocked but glad to see that one of her STARS comrades was still alive. He too was surprised to see her, but he tells her that there's no time to chit-chat. They need to keep moving. They need to get out of the city while they can. She tells him, "How can you say that? As a member of STARS, we have a duty to protect the citizens of this city. Or do I have to pull rank on you?" Brad replies, "Joining STARS was one of the worst mistakes of my life. It has only brought me pain and misery, and right now I'm getting out of this hellhole." Brad runs off on his own, and Jill tries to keep up with him while trying to convince him not to leave her and that they need to stick together. But Brad tells her to stop following him, and he continues moving fast, making his way towards the entrance of the Raccoon City Police Department. They reach the entrance, and Brad tells her once again, "Jill, I won't say this again! Leave me alone!" Jill instantaneously stops, as she just spotted something much worse than a horde of zombies headed their way, and it turns out to be the Nemesis. Brad was near the entrance doors, but the Nemesis landed right in front of him. Jill cries out to Brad, telling him that he needs to run for it, but it was too late, as the Nemesis was already within his grasp. As Brad is about to meet an unsettling fate, Jill is at a distance, frightened, as she has felt this feeling before. The feeling of knowing that she is so helpless. And as the hulking creature approaches closer, Brad tries to run for it, and this only gives Nemesis more enjoyment before it tears the life out of this terrified STARS member. The Nemesis grabs him by the shoulder and turns him around. Brad was paralyzed with fear, and he could do nothing but scream. The Nemesis then proceeds to pierce his parasitic tentacle through Brad's face, instantly killing him. Jill could do nothing to prevent the death of her STARS comrade, and she could only look away in horror. But the Nemesis is not done yet. Moments later, we see an Umbrella helicopter flying over Raccoon City, dropping off special canisters containing BOWs. We then see Nikolai, who managed to survive the recent battle against the hordes of zombies, but it appears that he was made well aware of the drop mission through his earpiece. The helicopter drops one of the canisters right through a building, and the shockwave is felt by Carlos, who is still in the sewers looking for a way into the surface. After running through tunnels, he then stumbles across an abandoned laboratory. There are signs of an attack that recently occurred, but with an outbreak currently going on, there's no need to investigate what could have happened. But the real concern is what exactly was the purpose of this lab. As Carlos enters, we see many test tubes and experiments that are still alive but not fully developed. This explains much of what they've been facing off against in the streets of Raccoon City. But horrified by the disturbing sight of a mutant human fetus growing in a tank, Carlos unloads multiple rounds on every experiment, completely destroying the entire lab. He is by all means shocked at the sight of these ongoing experiments, but none of that tops off the next thing he sees. In front of him is the same logo that he wears on his uniform. He can't believe that the company he works for is what started this nightmare in the first place. There's also a document in front of him with the Umbrella logo on it, and it appears to be a file on Dr. William Birkin's discussion with the Umbrella executives about the G-Virus project. As Carlos examines it, he hears something nearby, so he pulls out his flashlight and shines it at a dark corner in the room. It appears that he is not alone. Someone nearby emerges from the darkness, and it turned out to be William Birkin himself. But what's worse is that he is in his G-infected form. Carlos quickly aims his assault rifle and fires every round that he can in hopes of wearing Birkin down and giving him a chance to escape. But it doesn't look like his efforts are doing much damage, and Birkin then prepares to strike back with one powerful swipe from his deadly claws. But suddenly, the wall behind Carlos breaks as something big has confronted them as well. Mr. X's fist clashes with Birkin's claws, and with Carlos in dead center from these lethal brutes. Previously, Jill Valentine and Brad Vickers made their way towards the entrance to the police station, but the Nemesis found them before they could enter the department and effortlessly disposed of Brad in front of Jill. Brad was closest to the entrance, and now the Nemesis has blocked her path. She can try to go around him and reach the entrance doors and hope that locking them will delay his pursuit towards her, but the Nemesis does not give her a chance to decide for herself, and he proceeds to eliminate her as well. He charges towards her, using Brad's corpse as a weapon against her. He swings the cadaver at Jill with enough force to break the bones. Jill manages to dodge his oncoming attacks, and by his third swing, she counters with a shot directly into his throat, which does nothing to slow him down. He counters back with a headbutt to her torso. She is hurt, but she can still continue. As she prepares her next move, a couple zombies begin closing in from behind. This could worsen her situation, or it could be the distraction she needs to escape from the Nemesis. Once the two zombies are close enough, Jill dodges the oncoming zombies and attempts to make her way into the police station. But the Nemesis easily gets rid of both zombies by tossing Brad's body directly at them. He then jumps incredibly high towards Jill in an attempt to crush her. She dodges this attack, but she had to move away from the entrance. Luckily, she gets a hold of the flag by her side, rips it from its place and wraps it onto the Nemesis' face, forcing him to drop his guard while he removes it. Jill uses this opportunity to further blind the Nemesis by shooting him in the face multiple times at point blank. She follows up by leaping onto his back, switching to her combat knife and ramming it through his right eye. He strikes Jill, getting her off his back, but with the damage he's received, he is forced to retreat, and the Nemesis has been defeated for now. Like in the video game, after he is defeated, the Nemesis will drop a case containing something useful. She grabs it and walks into the police station and makes her way to the reception counter. She logs into the computer to receive the password for the locked drawer that's in the evidence room. Jill picks up the blue gem needed to open the gate to Raccoon City Hall, and she uses the password on the keypad, obtaining the star's emblem key, which is the room she must go into in order to use a communication system and reach out for help. As she reaches for the key, something begins dripping from the ceiling, which could signify that danger is near. Jill quickly aims her handgun above her, but it turns out to be the emergency sprinklers. The dimness of the lighting in the evidence room leaves a few corners looking very dark, enough for something or someone to hide in the shadows. So she keeps her guard up only until she can be assured that the room is safe. But her suspicions were correct, as a BOW hunter does in fact lurk nearby, and it aims to kill its prey with a silent attack. As Jill turns to its direction, the hunter attacks, biting onto Jill's handgun with enough force to break it. She is now left with only her combat knife to defend herself with, but in a tight environment such as this, it will only increase the chances of being caught by this creature. What's worse is that she dropped the star's key after it attacked her, so she must fight the creature in order to retrieve the star's key. Jill recollects fighting creatures such as this one back at the Spencer mansion, but this hunter appears to have undergone further mutation, giving it a disturbingly huge tumor growing in its upper body. It prepares to attack her, and Jill manages to dodge the first 2 strikes, but it moves fast enough to grab her from behind before she can try and fight back. The hunter uses enough strength in it to ensure that she cannot break free, and it prepares to devour its prey, starting with the neck. With mere heartbeats away, Jill uses her combat knife to pierce through its enormous tumors, hoping it's enough to bring it down. And fortunately, it works to force the hunter to release its grip on her. She then flips the hunter now in front of her, but on the process of doing so, the pussing blood coming from its tumor spills on Jill's right shoulder, burning at her flesh. The tumors on the hunter must be acidic, which would explain why it's harming her solely by contact to her skin. To make matters worse, the acidic blood dripped on the star's key, causing it to melt. With the star's key no longer useful, Jill makes a run for it while she still can, but the hunter immediately begins going after her. With its blood still spilling everywhere the hunter goes, Jill notices that when the acidic blood spilled on a file, it quickly burnt through it. But when it spilled onto a blue herb plant, it had no effects on the plant whatsoever. There's no turning back to retrieve the plant, so she continues moving forward, exiting the evidence room and avoiding to get caught by the hunter once again. She makes her way through the halls of the police station, but despite the fact that she was not injured by the hunter's claws or teeth, the acidic blood that spilled on her shoulder continues to burn and worsen her condition. The star's room isn't too far away, but there could always be another hunter or other dangerous creatures blocking her path. She has already lost her handgun, and the combat knife can only take her so far. However, she has a good fortune to find another blue herb on her way. The blue herb works effectively to heal the burn and infection caused by the hunter, but without the star's key, she will need to try something else in order to reach the communication systems inside the star's room. She reaches the location without any more interferences along the way, and takes out a bullet, then uses her combat knife to remove the tip of the bullet, and begins pouring the gunpowder onto the door handle. She then takes a few steps back, aims her combat knife at the door, and throws it as hard as she can. The blade of the knife hits the metallic door, causing a few sparks, and the sparks touch the gunpowder, which cause an explosion, blowing the door wide open. She makes her way into the room and begins reaching out for immediate assistance. In the meantime, it is revealed that many zombies are making their way to the police station, most likely due to the loud explosion caused by the sparked gunpowder. Jill successfully managed to reach out for help, and the guy on the other end lets her know that they've already sent in their newest but best recruit. This ended up being the moment that the newest member of the Raccoon City Police Department was on his way to the doomed city that would inevitably change his life. Previously, Carlos managed to escape from the clutches of death itself when his comrade Jeff sacrificed himself to save Carlos by pushing him into the manhole while he acts as bait for the undead citizens of Raccoon City. But soon after he found an abandoned laboratory within the sewers, the G-infected William Birkin appeared in front of him and was about to make Jeff's sacrifice be in vain. But suddenly, the mighty brute known as Mr. X broke through the wall behind Carlos, clashing with Birkin, ready to face off against anything that stands in its way. Right away, Mr. X follows up with a powerful punch, including Birkin, but Mr. X lands the first hit. Birkin crashes on the lab equipment, and seeing as both brutes are distracted, Carlos uses this opportunity to flee the area before the winner decides to get rid of him as well. Mr. X seems to have the upper hand as he continues to pummel William Birkin. He even uses one of his signature moves on Birkin's shoulder eye, vastly hurting it. But this time, Birkin's had enough, and as Mr. X prepares for a follow-up attack, Birkin strikes much faster and lays a heavy attack on his opponent, breaking through the concrete wall behind him. You can see that Mr. X was severely injured by that single strike, leaving him temporarily inactive. Birkin then lands another devastating attack on Mr. X, which leaves the same impact on him. Birkin continues to strike his opponent multiple times with the same amount of force, breaking through the floors and still proceeding to do so until his opponent is no longer moving. And unfortunately for Mr. X, he is defeated by William Birkin. Birkin stands over the body of his opponent, showing that he wasn't holding back, and considering the fact that Mr. X can pack one hell of a punch, Birkin did not even have to mutate any further in order to gain the upper hand. His first transformation was more than enough to deal with Mr. X. We then go back to Carlos, and he was fortunate enough to escape from the ruthless brutes. He proceeded through the underground Umbrella facility, making it a long distance away from the G-infected Birkin. He's fatigued and shocked that he actually got away from two dangerous situations, but he's still not far away from danger, as it appears that a large group of zombies from the streets of Raccoon City managed to make their way into the underground Umbrella facility. Unable to take a break, Carlos prepares to get rid of every single one of them, but just before he does so, it appears that two of the zombies are a mother and her child. Not only that, but this was the family that Dario Russo abandoned when he was frightened by the living dead that followed them. He managed to escape, but only because he let his wife and daughter be devoured alive while he got away. It's startling to see the wife still holding her daughter's hand even after reanimating into a zombie. Carlos is saddened by the sight of what's become of the townspeople who never deserved such a gruesome and tragic end. But he must pull himself together and do what must be done. He aims his weapon and pulls down on the trigger until every one of them is dead, up until he notices one particular zombie that he hadn't noticed yet, the reanimated corpse of the former UBCS mercenary and his best friend, Jeff. Carlos cannot believe who stands in front of him, as not long ago he was fighting side by side with his friend. Jeff staggers towards Carlos, reaching out to him, and it appears as if the zombified Jeff recognizes Carlos, or he's reaching out for the crucifix that he gave him. But Carlos has to get a grip on himself. Jeff was once his friend and comrade, but he has to acknowledge that Jeff is no more, and he must complete his mission. So he takes aim and fires once again. Moments later, in a separate location, Nikolai is seen still on his own and proceeding to provide classified information to an unknown assailant. Nikolai closes his laptop, but then it appears that someone was watching him from behind, and it is revealed to be Carlos. He managed to escape the Umbrella facility and get back to the surface, but seeing as Nikolai isn't fighting anyone, he wants some answers. Nikolai simply tells him that he was given orders to take the outside area. Nikolai is by himself communicating with someone from the outside, and even appearing as if he hasn't been anywhere near death or destruction. Carlos does not believe him. He believes that Nikolai must be taking bribes from someone, instead of completing his mission. And for the moment, both comrades are prepared for what comes next. But suddenly, the mercenaries are interrupted by a Cerberus that bursts out of a fire behind Nikolai. But surprisingly, Nikolai dodges the Cerberus with ease, even after it attacked him from behind. But now the Cerberus is heading for Carlos, and without a chance to react fast, he dropped his weapon to hold back the Cerberus. The Cerberus dropped Carlos on the floor, and if he can't manage to get the zombified dog off of him, he'll likely catch on fire before it can begin to devour him. Nikolai quickly pulls out his handgun, takes aim, and watches as Carlos struggles to push the Cerberus away from him. But finally, he decides to shoot down the Cerberus. Its blood spills on Carlos' face, and with a single shot to its head, the Cerberus is down for good. Carlos is surprised to see that Nikolai not only dodged the Cerberus, but he also saved his life. Seconds ago, it looked like Nikolai was counting on the zombie dog to take him out. He's relieved to see that he wasn't betrayed, but now is not the time to question his actions. He must go on with the mission and proceed to clear the streets from getting worse. Nikolai has demonstrated to be a remarkable mercenary. It's no wonder why he has no injuries, even with all the nightmarish creatures that lurk nearby. Carlos is tough, but Nikolai appears to be in a whole new rank. He's going to need to be much more careful next time they meet.
No! Come anyone! Our platoon is cut off! No survivors found! This is Carlos! Send in support immediately!
After Jill defeated the Nemesis by piercing her combat knife through his right eye, the Nemesis was forced to retreat, and since the parasitic virus that runs through his veins does not regenerate like the G-Virus, he must tend to his own injuries by stitching his own eye shut. Meanwhile, when Jill managed to reach the communication system inside the STARS room, She reached out for immediate assistance, but as she continued to explain the situation occurring in Raccoon City, the signal is intercepted by someone trying to cover up Umbrella's work. And this man was the mercenary known as Nikolai. This was the moment when he closed his laptop and Carlos ran into him. Jill continues trying to reach out for help, but there is no response. She knows that there are people working to cover their tracks, and it seems as if there is nowhere to turn for help. Worst of all is that the sound of death is coming for her again. Perhaps it's the smell of gunpowder which attracts them closer to her. She tried communicating with someone, but the line was cut off, so she must leave the room and find a new weapon before the undead manage to reach her. She makes her way through the corridor and into the west stairway, heading towards the dark room in the first floor. Luckily, it's not far at all, and all she must do is go down the stairway as it's just around the corner. But as she reaches the first floor stairway, zombies begin breaking through the doors, quickly making their way towards Jill. She swiftly enters the dark room and, for a brief moment, she thought the nemesis was right in front of her. With danger lurking around every corner, she finds a message left behind mentioning survivors in the city, and that she must help them escape. But to her surprise, a group of zombies that followed her managed to break down the door to the dark room, completely blocking her only escape. The only way to survive in this scenario is to fight. However, Jill is only equipped with her combat knife and nothing more. So her only true option is to find a useful weapon inside the storage box. Jill quickly opens the storage box, and now she finally has possession of some powerful weapons to take care of this lethal situation. She chooses the pump shotgun, loads her weapon with enough shells as they're about to reach her, and garnishes the walls with the putrid remains of these zombies. Seeing as the dark room is small and crowded, the pump shotgun was the perfect weapon to keep the undead at a distance. She disposes of them one after another, but like in the game, if you shoot a zombie that's at a very close range with a shotgun, it will blast the zombie in half, without killing them. This happened with one of the zombies that went after her, and as she continued her killing spree, that particular zombie crawled towards her feet and bit down on her leg. Fortunately, her boot was thick enough to save her from its bite, and she kicks the zombie's head with enough force to decapitate it. She disposed of them all, and now that she finally got a hold of some good weapons, and there are no survivors in the police station, she sets off to continue her perilous struggle to escape Raccoon City and hopefully find survivors in the process. She exits the police station, and by now the streets along her way appear to be less crowded than before, and it went from a dead town to a ghost town within minutes. She makes her way into a restaurant known as Grill 13, and once inside, she hears something nearby. Jill is now ready to take on any other creature who tries to get the drop on her. She steps into the lobby, and on the other side, it was revealed to be the mercenary known as Carlos. Carlos lowers his weapon once he saw that it was a zombie, but Jill does not lower her weapon right away. And Carlos tells her, "Miss, I am not used to pointing guns at people." To him, she's a survivor. But to Jill, he wears Umbrella's logo on his uniform, and he too could be another adversary. Someone sent by Umbrella to continue covering their tracks. But before any decisions could be made, someone enters the Grill 13 restaurant, and the nemesis has reached Jill's location, and he makes his way towards the lobby. Jill has no other choice but to fight together with the Umbrella soldier if they have any hopes of taking it down. Carlos isn't sure what she's talking about until he sees the nemesis, and without a moment's hesitation, they fire as many rounds as needed to bring it down. The close range and heavy firepower force him back against the wall next to a set of flammable gas tanks, and once Jill notices the gas tanks, she fires directly at them, causing an explosion that should be powerful enough to knock out the nemesis. Most of the ceiling collapsed on top of him as well, but none of this was capable of bringing him down, as he already begins rising up even with all the heavy debris that fell on him. Carlos grabs a handful of bullets from his assault rifle and charges towards the nemesis with a new plan of attack while he's getting up. He shoves the bullets directly into this brute's mouth and leaps onto his back and gets him in a headlock. He keeps one hand on its mouth, ensuring that it does not spit them out, even if there's a chance that his hand can get blown off if the nemesis bites down on them with enough force. But to him, surviving against this horrifying brute is more important at the moment. The Nemesis tries to shake him off, but Carlos gets a tight grip on his enemy, refusing to let go and hoping that Jill shoots it down while it's occupied. The Nemesis fires back by unleashing additional parasitic tentacles from its back to strike Carlos as many times until he can no longer hold on. Jill is astonished to see the endless efforts of this Umbrella soldier. She aims her shotgun to assist him in bringing down the Nemesis, but she hesitates as she is not sure what to do. The Nemesis is trying to shake him off and she could accidentally shoot Carlos in the process. The parasitic tentacles grab onto Carlos and begin clutching with as much force needed to break his bones, forcing him to let go. Carlos can only hold on for a bit longer, and Jill needs to take action before it's too late. She needs to shoot the Nemesis directly in its mouth to set off every round that's being forced in him. She could shoot it while Carlos keeps his hand in place, blasting his hand off in the process. But the moment Carlos removed his hand from its mouth, Jill had only 0.1 seconds to execute her next move. And in that 0.1 second, she pulled the trigger, getting a direct shot in its mouth, setting off every round, which completely destroyed its jaw. This attack was enough to bring him down for now. Carlos removes the large tentacles that were holding a tight grip on him, and Jill helps remove them from him as well. Carlos is relieved that together they managed to defeat the Nemesis, and he puts his hand out for Jill to help him up, but he did not get the courtesy response he deserved. She turns away from him and tells him, "I know you work for Umbrella, and don't think that I'll be thanking you for helping me." He asks, "What's the problem? I'm only here to help." And Jill replies, "Help? You're here to help? Turning people into zombies is helping me? You're all just puppets of Umbrella organizations, and I will destroy Umbrella for what they've done." Carlos is speechless. All the previous questions and the words of Jill are almost certain that the Umbrella organization has a shameful relationship with the matter. But at the moment, his heart is contradictory. On one hand, he hopes to find out the true murderer of the great catastrophe occurring in Raccoon City. On the other hand, he is afraid that the fact is that the Umbrella group he belongs to is what caused this catastrophe in the first place. He tries to explain that he's just a soldier, he's not involved with any biochemical weapons, and if Umbrella is responsible for the outbreak, he had nothing to do with it. But she does not believe him, and she leaves the restaurant by herself. Ironically, the moment she exited the restaurant, something grabbed onto his right leg, and within seconds, he awakens and grabs onto Carlos's leg, preventing him from running away while he can. And now Carlos must fight against it once again, but only this time, he is on his own. And without Jill's help, he's gonna need more than a handful of bullets if he expects to survive another round against the Nemesis. Jill headed straight for the newspaper building. Before she can escape, she has to check things out, stop the spread of this catastrophe, and get justice for those who died in the city. There must be some evidence that leads to Umbrella's doing. She moves a stepladder near the wall containing the lever and controls too high to reach so she can open the locked gate right next to her. Jill gets the gate open, heads towards it while it does so, but is met with a backdraft of flames that blew towards her like a fierce fiery beast. It terrified Jill, but she shook it off and told herself it was just an illusion again. She jumps over the fire as it was low enough to avoid and heads upstairs while repeating to herself, "It's all just an illusion." She makes it to the newspaper office and sees a man standing in front of her. Meanwhile, Nemesis holds a tight grip on him. Carlos tries kicking its head as hard as he can, but it then proceeds to throw him across the building. He just managed to defeat the Nemesis with some of the most daring tactics anyone could ever pull off, but it appears as if those attempts were meaningless. He gave it everything he could on their recent fight, but it's not over, as the Nemesis refuses to be defeated. The impact from crashing on the wall not only left Carlos bleeding heavily, but the wall and the ceiling start collapsing from all the destruction they've caused. Nemesis prepares to end his target with one deadly blow. He charges his fist, but a piece of equipment from the ceiling falls in the way, taking the full power hit from the Nemesis. Unfortunately, his attack was strong enough to pierce right through it, and he still managed to hit Carlos at full force. He spills more blood as he realizes that his final moments are near. This tyrant will not stop until its targets are neutralized, and his firepower is not strong enough to put it down once again. There doesn't seem to be a way out of this situation anymore, and the Nemesis is already preparing for another powerful hit, only this time there won't be another interference. He charges one final attack, but stops right before reaching his target. "What just happened?" he says out loud. The nemesis stays in place with his arm extended, its fist still clenched. The only thing that begins moving are the tentacles on its back. Something stopped it in place, but what could it be? Perhaps he's regenerating its injuries, such as its missing jaw, and the process halts it from moving any further, or someone had commanded the nemesis to stop. The parasitic tentacles from its back start moving chaotically, and more begin sprouting in the opening of its missing jaw. This has to be why it stopped moving, but whatever the reason may be, there's no time to imitate its frozen state. He must escape while he has the chance. But before he does so, he notices that it has a case strapped to its back, and he takes it with him as it could contain a useful item along the way. It's all just an illusion. She makes it to the newspaper office and sees a man standing in front of her. She sees none other than Chris Redfield, her former star's comrade. But how could he be here? That's because he's not there. Yet another illusion, one that almost costed her life. Completely startled, Jill acts fast enough to aim and pull the trigger before it bites her. The shotgun blast sends the zombie crashing against the wall. This illusion enraged Jill. If she had not acted fast, this would have been the end of her struggle. She knows she must keep it together, but there's no time to relax. There are more important matters than a little trauma, she tells herself. Analyzing the room, it appears that many survivors tried holding up at this location, but with the gate locked, no zombies would enter the office. So, one or more survivors must have been infected, and as you can see, everyone paid the price. There's also an Umbrella mercenary, and it appears that he tried protecting that child. Unfortunately, he still failed. But does that mean that there are also good people that work for Umbrella? A note is found next to the mercenary. She picks up the note, which reads, "Order for UBCS Echo Team. Wipe out the downtown area of the infestation and then evacuate the remaining citizens to the clock tower. Among the civilians, remember to give priority to the employees of Umbrella's affiliates. Remember to stay alert because the infected have a high endurance rate and will strike without hesitation. Evacuation procedure. Once the mission is complete, or when it becomes too impossible to accomplish, evacuate immediately. We will deploy a helicopter that is waiting in the suburbs, to the yard in front of the clock tower. When you are ready for evacuation, ring the bell of the clock tower to signal the helicopter." She thinks to herself, Umbrella gave them a guide to retreat after all. With their hidden reputation, one would assume that Umbrella would simply forget about every soldier and expect them all to die during their mission. Or is there a chance that they too were being used? Wesker mentioned that STARS was used as guinea pigs to test the results of their creations, and since he was killed by that tyrant, then maybe they didn't get the exact results they were looking for, since everything was destroyed. Could they be in the same position that we were in? Anything is possible here, she says. Jill then continues to go through the rest of the files found in the office regarding the chaos in Raccoon City, and finds photographs of the outbreak, including a memo left by one of the reporters. It reads, "At last I have found the evidence I need to prove that the cannibal disease is indeed happening in this city. One man actually ate people to death. He was like a savage animal tearing away a new flesh. It was completely disgusting. I have heard rumors that many people are also suffering from this disease now. However, the causes of the disease is not yet known. Is this another mystery of the present disease? I'll have to check on it. They have placed Raccoon City under martial law because of the cannibal disease. I have lost contact with the media outside of the city, but I won't give up. As a journalist, I won't keep my eyes shut and walk away. I have a duty to the people and my profession. I don't think the disease has spread nationwide yet. I believe that this city holds the key to its creation and cure. In fact, I'm sure of it. The military has set up blockades around the city to keep people from escaping and spreading the disease. Most of the citizens have either died or have come in contact with the disease. I know that it is the right decision to quarantine the city, but I can't help but pity myself. If I am infected or eaten, it doesn't matter. My fate is already sealed. All I have left is my journalism. I won't give up until I solve the mystery of this deadly disease. I have just discovered that the disease does not spread through the air, but by some other means. That's the end of that memo. No signatures to identify who this reporter was. She continues to search the office and finds a green gem and a reloading tool with 8 jars filled with gunpowder. This can be used to create ammunition for the weapons Jill carries. She makes great use of these items and begins mixing them to create as much ammo as she can before the entire building catches on fire. The flames begin catching up to her, so she collects what she's gotten out of this reloading tool, takes the green gem and exits the room, but is forced to jump out of the window next to the entrance to the office. With the green gem and blue gem which she found at the police station, there's one place she can now enter: the Raccoon City Hall. As she heads west, she thinks to herself, from the documents of the Umbrella Organization members, it is known that they have another way of retreating. Perhaps this is the last way to escape. Jill reaches the entrance gate. To leave this area, one must cross this remote gate, and to open this gate, the gem of a gem clock must be complete. But facing this door, the invisible sense of oppression made her feel fear of power. She spent her childhood growing up in Raccoon City, and after everything she's been through, she's still just a person, but also a girl. During the day, facing the enemy of death again and again, every time a door is opened, she does not know what kind of terror she will encounter. She even has a fear of following the door, and with her experience at the Spencer mansion, it never made things easier. At this lonely and helpless time, she thought of a person who was born and died alongside her, a person she remembers and misses. Thinking of him gave her a strong heart. She's not the only one facing this situation. Chris is investigating the depths of Umbrella in Europe. She tells herself, I believe that spiritually he is determined to support himself, just as I support him mentally at this moment. And we must continue to the best. She inserts the gems, and as the gate unlocked itself, the feeling of oppression multiplied. But she faces it, controlling that fear, and tells herself, I will not be afraid of you. If you like this content, there are more stories based on the Resident Evil series on this channel, like Leon versus the Deadliest Liquor, Ada Wong's Origins, The Stars Charlie Team, William Birkin versus the Nemesis, countless additional side stories that took place before, during, and after the outbreak in Raccoon City, including more franchises for your entertainment. Take some time to browse through the archives of many playlists, such as the 10 Awesome Facts videos on Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, and more. Now, back to the story of Jill's perilous struggle in Raccoon City. It seems quiet, like passing through a faint illusion. After meeting these zombies for the first time, facing these heartless plotting cadavers time after time, and fleeing again and again, just seems to form a kind of dance with the Grim Reaper. As she continues through the silent path, a Cerberus approaches slowly and prepares a lunge towards Jill. Then, with a quick and fierce effort to tear through her throat, it lunges in for a surprise attack and... Illusions or reality, Jill has gone through the gate with a new outlook. She is more than prepared for the worst to come. The nightmare may recommence, but her skills and weaponry are there to welcome these demons with open arms. She reaches the cable car, but it appears to be out of commission. She enters the cable car to see what is required to get it started. As soon as she does so, someone enters the cable car from the opposite end and mentions out loud, "No need to watch. The cable car won't move." Sergeant Nikolai Zinoviev of the UBCS approaches Jill and says, "Who are you supposed to be? I'm surprised to see a citizen of Raccoon still alive." She informs him that her name is Jill Valentine, and unlike ordinary citizens, she is a member of STARS. After seeing that one of the Umbrella mercenaries sacrificed himself to protect the child, she felt comfortable identifying herself, but also, she needed to make sure that he knew that she wasn't someone to take lightly. "STARS, you say? judging by the sound and identity, he now knew that she was a person who was in contact with the outside. It turned out that there was another mercenary in the cable car, one wounded but fighting to survive. She goes over to check on his condition. "Oh, this looks bad," she says. The injured soldier says out loud in a paranoid state, "Ugh, they're coming. Everyone get ready. Fire! Fire! Stay together!" Jill asks him to stay calm. Everything will be okay. Someone else enters the cable car, and it turns out to be Carlos. "I'm surprised to see you here," he tells her. "Here, this case was strapped to that thing that attacked us earlier. You should hold on to it. Might come in handy seeing as you won't be working with us. It's really impossible to expect that we'll be meeting again anytime soon." Jill takes the case with her, and Carlos then says, "It got back up, you know. That monster attacked me after you left." Before she replies, Nikolai approaches them and says, "This city is becoming a wasteland every second going by. We must evacuate as soon as possible, and this cable car isn't doing us any favors if it won't move. Let's get the necessary items to get this thing moving. If we can do that, we'll head to the clock tower area, which is the designated landing zone for the extraction chopper. Once we get there and give the signal, the chopper will fly in and pull us out." Carlos replies, "With that much ground to cover, is it possible to make it on foot?" And Nikolai replies, "That's one problem. But the main issue we have is that the landing zone is cut off from here by the fire. We have no choice but to operate this cable car and navigate right through it. Fortunately, we can use it as a moving shield and help us get right through the worst areas." Carlos replies, "Works for me. Good plan, sir." Nikolai exits after saying, "Okay people, let's get moving." Before Carlos heads out, he tosses another useful item to Jill, a side pack for a little extra inventory space. She catches it and Carlos tells her it's a multi-purpose side pack for military use. She smirks a bit and tells him that her name is Jill Valentine, and thanks. He responds, "Goodbye, Jill," then exits the cable car. They all head out separately and search for the items needed to get the cable car up and running. Before Jill exits the cable car, she notices an adjustable wrench which can be quite useful, so she takes it with her and proceeds to exit the cable car. Carlos heads over to investigate near the restaurant where they fought Nemesis, and just as he passes by a manhole, he hears a voice coming from beneath the manhole, so he opens it up with a fire hook that was placed nearby. He descends down a ladder into the darkness where the voice was heard. And as he takes his first step, someone begins running towards him. Unsure of whether danger is approaching at a fast rate, he aims his weapon in case something tries to get the drop on him, and it appears to be Sherry Birkin. She bumps into him and then tries to continue running away, but Carlos grabs her and tells her it's okay, he's not a zombie. But her expression indicates that something worse is chasing her. And as Carlos realizes this, a giant infected alligator shows up behind Sherry and attempts to swallow her whole. Carlos pulls her away from the alligator as it lunges forward with its mouth widely open. A collision is heard. Sherry closed her eyes the moment Carlos moved her out of the way. The infected alligator had attacked its nearest prey, but with a swift and unanticipated move from Carlos, he managed to keep the creature from snapping its mouth shut with all of his strength. This may not be the same giant alligator that was after Leon or Claire, but it has the same eager appetite for human flesh. Find out next time how this scenario unveils. Hello, stranger. Welcome to the ScorePN. We've got the iconic grin as well as the new lime green logo in store for you. And for a limited time, you can purchase the Yuri vs. Joe knockout item. It's available as a t-shirt including stickers, all for a very low price. This one's based on the Resident Evil 3 mobile game called Resident Evil The Missions. And this one I like to call the Jill Manwich. It's my blend of the two things I love in this world, Jill and memes. And don't worry about the prices. They're as low as they can be. Yep, I'm barely making any profit. But, the important thing is that you don't need to spend too much to look good in a groovy lime green logo. So get yourself a Jill Manwich t-shirt or any of these luxurious and spunky designs and wear them with pride.
Yeah, wear them with pride.
Trust me, Anyone sees you wearing one of these and they'll immediately think,
Esta pinche vieja es buena onda, cabrón.
which translates to,
This guy. This is my kind of guy.
now over at my Patreon, I'm working on some secret projects. So if you'd like to have access to some of these never before seen videos, including updates and concept art from a comic book I'm working on based on Resident Evil Outbreak, then my Patreon's got you covered. I'll be updating everyone there with exclusive videos and newer art panels so you can see how far that project progresses over time. It's going to be the first comic book I create, and I'm putting as much effort as I can into it, so I do feel confident about that project alone. You might also be glad to know that I've started narrating the S.D. Perry novel of Resident Evil: The Umbrella Conspiracy as part of the Patreon exclusives, and there will be a new video based on each chapter every week. So don't miss out on any of these, my fellow jabronis. That's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to give this video a chance to grow. I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters for their impeccable generosity. Your support means a lot to me, and you are part of the reason why I try to make the best content that I can. And if you like this content, check out the rest of my channel. You'll find more entertainment from separate franchises I like to cover, such as Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, Celebrity Deathmatch, Men in Black, The Mask, Batman comics, The Terminator, TMNT, Dino Crises, Resident Evil, and more. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out my exclusive videos such as the Gantz content. And if you'd like to show your support, go to my Patreon and support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.